I think so. Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh. Hear anything.
Hi, we can't hear you.
I can hear you.
We can't hear you.
Oh dear.
What's going on? Oh my goodness. We can't hear anything. You can hear us?
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
That's so weird.
Is it to do with what you changed?
But I think everyone can hear us.
Microphone. Hello?
Hi.
Oh, goodness, we can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. This is so embarrassing.
So
technical issues. Great.
Sounds. Now the keyboard is just doing a silly thing. Sounds called in. Yeah, default device. Okay, is that Michelle? Oh my gosh, I just don't know what to do. Okay, what?
I'm sorry, we're live. We are having technical issues.
Output. She said introduce herself. Hello, can you hear us? Hi, sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We can't actually hear, but we are Grief Probate Journey. We're honoured to be part of this global grief conference, you know, bringing everybody together with our grief experiences and just sharing our knowledge and our resources. And hopefully through this, which is a global event, we'll be expanding the global reach, you know, and expanding the pool of information and resources that are available for people. So this is why we're really honoured to be a part of this. And we also have a special guest, Michelle, who we'll be speaking to, and she will be interviewing us. We'll be interviewing her just to find out information. But we're having technical difficulties at the moment with our sound. We can't hear. I'm not sure why.
There's something going on. What's that one?
What have you done? Oh, Tanya.
For the sound.
No. can't find the keyboard now. And the mouse. I think we're gonna have to postpone this. Settings.
Sorry, we're just trying to see.
Oh, we can hear you now.
You hear me now?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh,
wow. When we talk about crossbar paces.
for those of you watching, I was sending them messages on WhatsApp to try to ask questions just to kind of keep us going. But I'm glad you can hear me now, you know, because I could hear you.
Yeah, hi, sorry everybody, you know, wow. But yeah, we're back. So yeah, we're Grief Probate Journey, and we started our blog back in 2019. It wasn't necessarily a plan, but just through everything that we were experiencing when our dad was hospitalized in 2016, sadly passing away in 2017, we went through so many things, and there were so many like situations where we were struggling to find information and resources, and we really didn't know what to do, and we were having to think on the spot, not necessarily knowing if we were doing the right thing. So eventually we thought we want to try and create a space for people where it's like, you know, a localized place of various different information of the kind of things that we went through on our journey. So that was the like idea behind it.
Yeah, just to make it easier to find, because as I was saying, it was just like a minefield of things trying to find out information, and we were searching everywhere. We're in the midst of trying to deal with what's happening with our dad and everything else. So it was quite a lot to take in. So we just felt like we didn't want, especially with everything that happened with our dad, we wanted to have somewhere where people can see things a lot easier, because when you're going through a lot of things like that, it's hard to sort of keep everything together and understand everything. So we just thought we don't want everyone to go through that same sort of thing, just to make something, I mean, obviously we all go through everything, but just to make it easier.
And this was like varying situations. So like when our dad was in hospital, he had many medical conditions. A lot of them we had never heard of them. So it was trying to find out information about that. And then also like we had to do things like power. We were advised to do that. We'd never heard of that before. And so, you know, there was things that we had to know about. And then when our dad passed away, like inheritance and all of these types of things. So it was a lot of things that we were having to deal with all at the same time. And it was just quite overwhelming. So that's why we wanted to do it. And also we would fight, like we felt that rather than being in a situation where it might not be so appropriate to be talking about what we're going through, if we have that localized space and we just direct people to it, that's a bit better. So that was another reason why we wanted to do it as well.
Okay. And so thinking about, you know, the journey that you went through, okay, so I would like us to kind of go back just a little bit to the beginning part of the story, not to kind of make you relive it, but just to think about the emotions and things that you felt. When you first lost your dad, what were some of the initial feelings that you felt at the beginning? And did you feel that the people around you were able to support you with those feelings?
Without going too much into it, I mean, when we got the call about, because we had not long left our dad, and we weren't happy about how he was, the way he was
in the hospital,
and so we had left. But when we got the call and we got back there, we weren't supported really from throughout, to be honest.
This is not, we're not talking about like family, we're just talking about like the way that we were made to find out about how our dad had passed away. So I think, like, sorry to cut in, but like, not to cut in, but I think it's like the way that we found out has affected us till now, the way that we are dealing with the fact that our dad's not here, because it was quite traumatic, you know. We shouldn't have had to go through what we went through. So it kind of altered any other feeling, because it was such a shock, the way that we found out and all of the events that happened after that. So I think it's delayed to this point now, even 5 years later, it has delayed how we feel, because, you know, it wasn't the best situation at all. But thankfully we did have, you know, like a strong support network from family and friends. So, you know, when it came to like arranging the send off and things like that, people were helping us in abundance. You know, we didn't even need to ask for help. It was a bit overwhelming, not in a bad way, but it was just like, wow, you know, everybody's just helping us, you know, anything that we need, they were there. So that helped, because the way that we found out was really horrible. So on the other side, having that did make a big difference for us.
Okay, so I wanted to ask one question quickly, right? So the name of your YouTube channel and the name of your blog is Grief Probate Journey. And I find the name of it very intriguing. How did you come up with that name? And is there a story behind that? Because it says probate.
Yeah.
So I'm pulled to the probate. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, you know, why probate? Because it could easily have been Grief Journey, but you've put probate there for a specific reason. So could you shed some light on why you call it Grief Probate Journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's because of, like I said, with everything, all of our experiences, and probate was a big, major experience throughout that of the things that we had to deal with, dealing with our dad's estate and things like that. So the probate side came into it, and it took up a lot of time trying to go through everything that we had to do, and you know, sort of running here, there, and everywhere, trying to find information of how to go through it and that sort of thing. So that was
so what is probate? What is probate for people that don't know? Just explain it.
Yeah, probate, that is like, so when someone passes away, that, you know, like depending on how the will is, you become the executor of the estate. You have to sort out their affairs and the inheritance tax and everything that is involved with it. But what we've realized through probate is that it's such an individual thing, because it really does depend on the family situation and circumstance. For my sister and I, because that my mum and dad were divorced, the sole responsibility fell to us. But if the parents were married, you know, if our parents were still married, we wouldn't have had to deal with half of the things that we did. And, you know, there's so many layers within probate. It's unbelievable. So it really felt like a noose around our neck. Like there were days where we just like, you know what, we just don't want to do this anymore. But it didn't matter that we didn't want to, because we didn't have a choice, because it was legally our responsibility to do it. And it's our name beside it. And it's us getting the phone calls and the emails. Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? So that's why we put probate in there, because, you know, it's just such an unknown experience. And so from what we've learned, we want to try and share that with people in case they don't have that information, because it is such a complex thing. So that's why we wanted to call it Grief Probate Journey, so that it just explains our whole journey, because it's quite complex. And that's why within our blog, we talk about not just grief, but mental health and illnesses, because it's all a part of the journey that we've gone through and are still going through.
And I feel that I really wanted to kind of applaud you guys, because that is very unique. You know, the way that you share your story. Like, I've read some of your blog posts, and you kind of share the journey that you went through with the hospital, you know, and how you've been able to change some things there. Would you kind of share a little bit about that as well, so that for people that are watching that might be going through the same thing, they can kind of learn from your journey what that was like?
Yeah, that was a big experience.
It's not over now. So with the hospital, it wasn't ever a plan for us to, because we were in the process of making a complaint. It wasn't ever a plan that we were going to do that straight away. But because of the 7-month experience with our dad being in the hospital, and then the way that we found out and everything that happened after that, is why we decided to do it. But the thing is, even with making a complaint, there are stages that you have to go through and follow. For us, we are now learning that the way that we've gone about it, it might not go as well as we had wanted because of time. And time frames is a big issue that I think a lot of people, if they don't know about, it's quite a problem when trying to make a complaint. So for us, even if we can't go as far as we wanted to, we still want to try and get it out there to let people know the importance I'm in, which we feel that, you know, in a situation where, like we were, when someone's in hospital and they've just passed away, you're not going to be thinking about that. But unfortunately, you have to, because of the timelines. So I think our experience is very warped, because it's like we can't really be with the grief because there's like all the business sort of things that you have to think about.
Right. So there was a lot of legalities that you guys had to go through, and you didn't really have the knowledge or access to information to be able to deal with that. So did you find any support from any organizations, any legal bodies that could help you with it? Or did you have to find out everything all by yourself?
It was a mix. I mean, we did try to find we researched trying to find different ways to see how we could deal with it, and we sort of went down a route of with an advocate, an advocate, which they help you to go through everything. They can come in and help support. So when we had a meeting about things that had happened, the advocate came with us, and she was really supportive and really like person. She really helped in a sense. But then we found out later on there's things that had we gone down a different avenue, then we could have maybe got more resolved than what it seems like we're going to have now. So again, as Tara said, it's a lot to do with time frames, and it's a lot to do with what point if you're not getting anywhere with a certain point, then
you stop and then go further, which we were not aware of. So we thought that no matter how it goes down this route, we could go further. But now we're realizing that it's probably too late for that. And so, like, for our whole journey, really, it's hindsight. We're doing this in hindsight. It's kind of like, this is what's gone wrong for us. It's not necessarily going to be like that for everybody. But if we can share the things that went wrong for us, then hopefully it can help somebody else. And what we're learning is that through this, we're learning as we go along, because there's so many things that when we were going through it, because we were so like deep in it, we didn't really know what was happening. But as we're doing the blog and we're doing topics, we're like, oh wow, you know, that's how we were feeling. So we're learning as we go along as well.
Yeah, and we support with the grief network
community.
Since we've gone after everything, it's just been really amazing and really helpful, and you just feel a lot of support from everyone.
And I think that's what's really empowering, you know, about, you know, your blog and your website, is because you're talking about lived experience. So people can relate to the reality of what you've been through. And even though it's been a number of years, it's still ongoing, as you said. So it's not like all the issues are all resolved. So it's almost like you can't put your grief to bed. You know, like even if you want to move on, because of all the other stuff happening behind the scenes, it's still pulling you back, you know. And so having your website, having your YouTube channel, being able to follow you, people now have access to information so that they can kind of be in the know. Because one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys, you know, did your dad have a will? Did he have a will in place?
Yeah, this is something that we have spoken about as well, that he did. And he always wanted us to look at it. He always tried to give us like, oh, I've got it here. You need to look at it. And we were sort of always that, as we say, it's a taboo subject. And we were always like, oh, Dad, why are you showing us that now? And, you know, in hindsight, we know that
we should have had that conversation with him.
That's something we should have definitely had with him, because when we did finally get to see the will, there were things that weren't correct in it. And he hadn't signed it, and we realized it's because that there were errors in the will. And when going through everything of his things, we've not found anything else. So there is another will.
We managed to locate the solicitor where the will was done, and they even said, when we took it to them, they even said, we see why your dad didn't sign it, because there's too many things wrong here. But again, that's why we've got topics like talking to your loved ones in the here and now, because even though we didn't do it, it's like, it's so important, especially now in the times that we're living in with the pandemic and how everything is so different. Like, it can make the difference. Like, so I'm talking about will, but then there's other things like living will. So like, you know, if there's a living will, then that's the difference between the person's wishes being met and them having dignity and feeling respected in their final days and things like that. So this is why, you know, we try to encourage it, even though we know, we always say, we know it's not something that we did, but as this is a journey of hindsight, if we had, things could have been a lot different for us now.
Okay, so looking at your website, right? Because how long have you guys been having the website and the blogging? How long have you been running that for?
It's going to be 3 years in June.
3 years. Okay, so what kind of questions have you...
Sorry?
Go ahead. It's been 3 years in June.
2 years of the blog.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that people have come back to you and asked you since you've been doing the blogging and, you know, providing the information that you provide? Because I know you touch on things like mental health and well-being, you know, and you're partnering with different speakers, different professionals, different organizations. What are some of the main highlights and lessons that you've learned from your journey that you could share with people that might be watching today?
Do you know, the thing is, it's like for us, it's like it's so varied because that we share such different things. So sometimes people share things with us and we're just like, sorry, oh my goodness, like, you know, it in a sense, it's like it helps us to see that we are part of something where it's not, we don't think that it's just us going through this, but there are other people that are going through these things. And I've lost my train of thought, sorry, but what things would I say? I think it's like because of what we share, people want from their experiences, and then we share that. For example, like because of the things that we've done on the, people will be speaking about the fact that, you know, there are a lot of people that are experiencing mental health issues because of isolation and different types of situations in the home, and so we will work with them to put that out there. I don't know if I'm not sure if I answered your question, sorry.
No, so what I was saying was like, just you know, with people watch your YouTube channels, people read your blogs, you know, so they must come back to you with certain questions and ask you. And some of those questions, you know, they might be quite personal, they might not be. What are the main things that you've learned from other people who have come to you and said things about like what you're putting out there? Because, you know, the reason why I asked, you know, and this is not to kind of make it like a whole race type thing, but we come from the Black community and the way we do things as Black people is very different, you know. So the whole thing around writing wills, you know, it's not like the first thing that we do, you know. Having life insurance, it's not the first thing that we do. And so when we go through losing a loved one, it's almost like these light bulb moments come and they kind of hit you in the midst of all the mess and the chaos. So what I'm asking is, you know, when people come back to you, what are they asking you? What are they asking you from what they're reading about what you've been through?
Okay.
There has been questions about probate.
But one of the things with the probate, which made me realize that I needed to change things, is because they were like, oh, is this UK or is this America? And then it's like, things are not the same. So then I changed it, and then that's why I say, oh, this is UK or this is that. And so then because of that, we'll adapt the way that we do things, and we include things from other countries because it makes us more aware that there are differences. So that was one of the things. But also topics that we've shared, like for example, medical conditions. It was hospital acute pneumonia, and there was someone within, like, that was in a hospital, and they were saying, you know, this information is so good that this should be made available on NHS websites. And when we see things like that, we're like, oh my goodness, you know, like, we're just sharing through our learned experience, but it is making people aware of things that they weren't previously aware of. And that's why we also do things on, like, then we learn from people through that. For example, like if we share something about thyroid, and then someone talks about menopause and thyroid, it's like, oh, we hadn't thought about that, so we're learning and including. So I don't know if I hope that's answered it.
Yes, that makes sense, because, you know, the reason I asked as well is because when I looked at your website, I found it very interesting, and I love the way you write your blog posts. It's very informative and very practical. So you're not just, you know, like some people write things to just write for the sake of writing, but you're writing in a way that people can be educated and hopefully improve their situation. So when I was looking, like when you guys explained your dad's medical condition and you broke it down, and I was like, wow, like I would never have known this, you know, and I could easily get the information I needed just from the way that you kind of broke it down, you know. So I was just saying, like, with what you do now, how do you get your information to reach more people? Because I feel like, you know, the Black community, as much as I don't like to say it, but we need this information. So what are the things that Grief Probate Journey is doing other than the blog and YouTube to kind of get information more out into the community? Because we don't have access to a lot of information. We don't know how to engage with the, things like the NHS. We don't know how to engage with lawyers and professionals. When someone comes to the end of their life, it's almost as if we live life to the point of, like, we only care when it happens, basically. Like, we don't know what, like, oh my gosh, someone's passed on now. There's all of this other stuff. You know, it's like we're intimidated with having conversations. And so how have you found that? How have you found having the conversation with other people in your community, in your family, about these important things, and are they listening?
I would say yes, and I like some of my friends, they've said to me, or one of my friends in particular has said to me that when it comes to things, you can't wait. You have to do. You have to be proactive. You have to. So like situations, yeah, it's. Oh, I've lost my trail of thought as well now. I think.
For me, when
let me give an example, right? Okay, let me give you guys an example so you can gather your thoughts. Yeah. So like with me, when my husband passed away, you know, prior to him passing away, we talked about life insurance. You know, we had a mortgage, we had all those things, and we talked about life insurance. Now, unfortunately, he was going to live forever. You understand? And so when talking about life insurance, it's like, oh, we'll do it. You know, we'll do it. Now, for me as a woman, I could have easily gone behind his back and try and organize these things, but I didn't want to do things that way. So I kept relying on him and us coming together to make that decision. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. So when the time came and he passed on, no life insurance. There I am now with a mortgage, a house, 3 children, you know, being unemployed, and the whole of my world crumbling. But if I had had the life insurance, it would have made a huge difference to me and my children, you know. So now I try to tell people, listen, whatever you do, you get your car insurance, you get your home insurance, you get your life insurance, because it's vital, not just for you, but for anyone that you leave behind. If you really love them, you will get that insurance. So that's kind of the thing I was trying to kind of find out from you, because I see how you guys talk about the legalities and have the conversations about the probate and things like that, but the practicalities for individual people to be able to say, okay, you know what? Oh, you know what? Tanya and Tara said we need a will. Tanya and Tara said we need to make sure we have life insurance. I got to go do that. You understand? So what are some of the practicalities, like quick things you can give people? Listen to, they say, go get that sorted. You never know. We're not planning to die, but we are all going to die at some point. You understand? But what can you put in place? You know what I mean?
Okay, well, as like what you were saying, leading off of the things that you said to people, one of the other things that we would say based off our experience is end of life planning. This is something that we had never heard of before, and we wish that we had known about that. And if it was a conversation that we would have had, we would definitely encourage people to do that, because, you know, it really does make a difference to, because when you have an illness, it's like, it's not just your medical condition, it's your mental state of mind as well. And this is something that we was really often saying to the people in the hospital, like the person that our dad was, he was strong, independent, you know, he did everything for himself, and then he went into hospital and all of that changed. You know, he became bedbound, he lost his sight. And what we were trying to tell them is that it's not just about treating the medical condition. If you don't mentally treat him, he's going to waste away. So if those plans had been in place, you know, it's legally, when you do end of life planning, it's legally binding, so they have to adhere to your wishes, and at least then you can know you've got that kind of peace of mind. Whereas, you know, you're not feeling like, you know, you're just a vegetable or something, and you've got no say in things. So that's definitely one of the things that we would say.
That's amazing. I've definitely taken that today, you know, end of life plan, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've done that. I do have conversations with my children, you know, about things like if something were to happen to me, what they need to do, because, you know, because of my experience, you know, and even though they're still kind of young, I still feel like it's important to start having those conversations. And that leads me to one question I want to ask, right? And I hope you're not going to get emotional, right? So there was something that I read on your blog about the relationship that your dad had with one of your sons. How have you been how are you able to manage that? Because I feel like that's so hard. And so there's a lot of people that have young children that are close to their grandmas and their grandpas, and then all of a sudden grandpa is no longer there. How were you able to manage that part of the process?
To be honest, it wasn't easy, especially as my son, he's my oldest son, he's quite not emotional, but he's really in touch with his feelings and things like that. So he would just sort of randomly have this point where he's just started crying, and I'm thinking, what's the matter? And he just sort of, at one point, he just came out and said, "I want granddad." And for me, I found that, because that was sort of more when it was a bit more fresh, and I found that quite hard to deal with. But I said to him that granddad's, you know, granddad's still here, granddad's still, you know, is watching over you and things like that. So he still has that, not like knowledge of my dad. He remembers little things, and also we tried to keep talking to him and talking to both of my sons about him, even though my youngest at the time is when I just sort of had him when my dad was in hospital, so he didn't know him in that sense. He's seen pictures and things like that, and he knows him through what we talk about. But I do try to talk to him a lot about my dad, and try, and even though I find it hard to talk sometimes,
and show him the pictures,
and show
that
pictures,
because he was 7 months when my dad went into hospital, so they didn't have much time together. But also, like her eldest, he is so much like our dad. It's unbelievable. Like he just comes out with these things, and it's like it's our dad talking, and he dances like the way our dad used to. And I don't think he saw that. So those are things that like, oh, you know, granddad, and he's very smart and just so creative, and so we say things like that. And then also something that started happening that we weren't really planning, they started being in the videos now and like helping out with the topics. And like the youngest, he will be like the pictures that we use, he chooses the cover photo and the order that they should go in, and they're a lot more involved. So
we try to keep them informed more about what's going on, and not obviously because they're still young as well, so it's not easy to go into everything, but yeah, we try to keep them involved, and so that they will have a different experience of things than how we did. Like I said, when our dad showed us the will, we didn't want to know anything about it, but we hope that by keeping the discussions with them and keeping them involved, then they'll find it easier. They'll know more.
Find easier conversation to have when the time comes.
That's amazing, you know, because I feel like, you know, children sometimes when these things happen, it's almost as if children are they're not really included in the midst of everything because they're kids. It's almost like they don't know what's going on, you know. And I keep going back to your blog because I have read your blog, you know. You know, and I feel like when I look at the stories and the information, you guys have gone through grief more than like losing a loved one. Your dad wasn't the first person that you lost. You had lost a number of other people. However, this one had the most significant life-changing impact. You understand? And so the fact that you experienced that at different ages, and they're quite young, I think it's very important for people and parents and family to always consider the impact of the loved one going, or the grief or that trauma with the children. So I just really kind of wanted to get what you guys did in that situation. And I want to ask another question, right? Okay. So I see the two of you, like your sisters, and you're close. Yeah. Has that helped having each other, like to kind of deal with this journey, like blogging together, doing the videos together, going through the whole process together? Do you feel like your relationship is much stronger? And then having each other, you know, what's that like, having your sister, two of you doing it together?
I think as well, throughout everything, like we've always been close throughout life anyway, but I think at this point it just really made us come together a lot. I mean, we would joke about it. People would start asking us, are we sisters or are we twins or things like that?
And we'd be like, oh, we're morphing into each other, because like through that we were with each other like every day. So, and I think it did make a difference, because with what we were going through and the organizations that we were dealing with, and the way they were treating us and making us feel, it was good that we were doing it together, and we, you know, could use each other to, you know, get back up and go through it another day. Because the way that we were treated, and especially organizations that are supposed to be dealing with bereavement, the way that they would speak to us and treat us, it was like mind-blowing. We weren't prepared for that. So it definitely does help that we had each other to get through that, because there were many things that we never thought that we would experience. So that's another reason why we want to share it, to make people aware that, you know, just because that these people deal with grief and stuff, don't expect that you're going to get empathy. It's not necessarily it will be like that all the time, but these are the things that we experience that we never thought would happen. So it definitely does help that we have each other for that.
I'm glad to hear that. That's amazing. And you guys are doing an absolutely amazing job, You know, you really are strong women, and you're doing such amazing things. I feel like what you share does come from a completely different angle. You know, just the information on your website is absolutely amazing. Like I can't imagine anyone going on there and not learning something new. Like just if they just read one post, they will definitely get something new. Like I was on there, you know, going through night, like I'm falling asleep, like, oh, this is so good. Let me do another thing. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask a question. Do you feel that for you as between the two of you, do you see yourself doing events and workshops to bring people together and talk about these topics?
Oh, yeah. We do want to definitely try to, because the thing is, when we started, we didn't know, we just knew we wanted to share our story. But as the years go by and we're doing more and getting more involved within this grief community, like even the grief community, we never knew that existed. And it was like a bit overwhelming, but not in a bad way. But it's like, it's nice to know because we feel like we're a part of, you know, trying to bring about change. So yeah, definitely we want to expand more, because also in doing this, it's like kind of it's in honor of our dad. So, you know, that everything that we're doing, that is what it's about. So, you know, we hope that, you know, we could do that and, you know, make him be proud of, you know, what we're trying to do out of what happened, out of the situation. So definitely all those sorts of things, any ways that we can get out there more and, you know, just
try and help. And
definitely.
No, I definitely think like you're keeping his memory alive, and I'm definitely sure he's proud of you both, you know, because of what you're doing, because you've taken something that could be very devastating, you know, and very, very traumatic, and you're turning it around and using your experience to empower people and educate people and hopefully bridge people to have access to the right information at the right time, so they don't experience what you experience. And I'm proud of you, so I'm sure your dad would definitely be proud of you, you know, so you guys are absolutely amazing. You know,
Okay, so if that's okay, we would like to ask you some questions now, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the questions that we wanted to ask you is like, if you could just like tell us the work that you do around grief and how you came to, you know, came about doing that, and, you know,
Okay, so I'm in the short kind of synopsis of things. When my husband passed away, it's probably been about maybe 10 years ago now. But even though it's funny how when someone passes away, no matter how long it is, it always seems real and relevant in that moment. To me, so everyone else is like, oh, it's long. But to me, I feel like it just happened. You know what I mean? But the emotions may not be there as it was then. But in my mind, it's like, it's still real. So when he passed away, I went through a very exhausting experience. You know, I found myself in a place I never thought I would be, literally having to build my life from scratch. So when he had a heart attack in our home, so I literally watched him die, take his last breath.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was at home. I have 3 children, and at the time my son was 7 months old. So, you know, he kind of started coughing, and when I went into the room, I found him, you know, gasping for breath, and called the ambulance. By the time they came, he had already passed away, you know. But the funny thing is, I still remember very clearly some of the things that happened that night. Like I remember the guy in the ambulance saying, "Oh, he's gone, love. There's nothing we can do." And I think to myself, "Listen, you better just shut up. You know, you need to bring my husband back." Like, you know, and I'm a Christian, so I started praying and like asking God, but he was very dismissive in his tone. There wasn't that compassion and that care in the delivery, you know. And I can understand it because, you know, as people that work for the ambulance, they see these things all the time. So after a while, they kind of get a little bit insensitive to it. So I never took that personally. But what was very interesting for me was when I went through my journey of grief, it was very devastating because I was someone that was doing normal life. So, you know, went to university, got married, had kids, got the mortgage. My life was normal. You know, I wasn't the kind of person that wanted to be too blinged up or anything like that. But my husband was my safety. He was my security net. You know, he was the one person I trusted. So when he passed away, it was almost like the rug was taken from under me and I had nothing to catch me. And I began to learn who were my friends, who were my family, who really cared for me, who really loved me, who would be there for me. You know, initially I had a lot of bitterness, a lot of resentment, a lot of anger. You know, I found myself, you know, in a very dark and lonely place, and I couldn't articulate it or compare it with anything, because even though I had lost my dad when I was about 11 years old, this experience did not connect with that experience. Because 11 years old, I was in Nigeria. I just saw, oh, my dad's dead. They're planning a funeral. They're taking him away. The only reason I kind of knew is because I saw my sister crying. Nobody sat me down to tell me. My sister was crying. I'm thinking, why is she crying? And then I'm thinking, and then all manner of things are happening. And then I end up in a house. I can see my dad lying on the bed. He's not getting up. His body, he looks different. And that's all I know. Nobody at any point saying, oh, this is what's going on. And then here, years down the road, my late husband is now passed away right in front of me. It's almost like the child in me woke up. And every level of trauma I had gone through throughout my life came all at once. And I began to spiral through these emotional whirlwinds, you know, depression, you know, all forms of, you know, like suicide, all manner of things crossed my mind, you know. But for me, the thing that I found most salvation in, which is what's led me to the things that I do now, is that I found God to be real. You know, I really found God to be real. So even though I had been a Christian initially, you know, as Christians, you kind of do stuff that are just more like religious type of things. You know, I knew Jesus was real. I knew God was real, but I didn't know him as being like tangibly real, like right there real. You know, but when he passed away, he was real. Like God showed up. Jesus showed up. You know, I had all these amazing experiences with God, and then began a journey to recovery. Which is what's made me the person that I am now. And down the road, I started different ministries and different things. I had a blog as well. I had a blog talking about how, you know, I was going through my journey with God, you know, and those things have transitioned over the years to what I have now called Reshape with the Holy Spirit, where I work with people to deal with the trauma that they face. Now, the reason why I say trauma, because I don't just deal with grief and loss. I deal with a lot of things around trauma, because as human beings, and particularly within our Black community, we go through a lot of things in our lives and we never tackle them. We just, oh, you know, she's strong, carry on, first, it is well, let it be, let go, let God, all those kind of stuff. Whereas those emotions and those traumas are being pushed down inside of us, affecting our relationships, affecting our finances, affecting our body and our health and our mind. And I became really intrigued. The reason why, because I said, God loves us. So God doesn't want us to suffer. How can I bring people healing? And that's what sent me on my journey. I started hosting events. I started speaking at different engagements. I'm currently writing a book at the moment about my journey and my experience, which I've been writing forever. Let me just put it out there right now. I hope to finish it soon, you know. So I host events now. I do programs. I do mentoring. I do coaching, just to empower people, to let them know that even though they've gone through these things, there is definitely life to live for on the other side. You understand? And that's Michelle in a nutshell.
Okay. So like one of the other things, you've kind of sort of covered this, but like why do you think it is important for people to talk about the traumas, not like and loss, and not just grief? Like why do you think that it is important for people to do that?
Well, the thing is, you know, people identify grief, most people, not everybody, but most people identify grief with losing a loved one, okay? Most people identify trauma with things that may be rape, you know, going to war, you know, but they don't realize that trauma is not necessarily one defined word. Trauma, I think, for me, is based on an individual person's perception and experience. So someone like me, now, I might go to war and come back and I'm okay. But there's someone else that might go to war and their whole life is different. Yeah. So we can't use one spectrum, one way to measure everybody's trauma. So when we have these conversations, it creates a safe space for people to say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just going through a process, and I can come out of that process. Unless we talk about it, it just stays in us. And no matter, I've come to learn, especially from the work I do, that no matter how much you feel or think you've gotten over something, until you've really addressed that problem, my dear, that problem is right there. It's just hiding somewhere. You know? So I do a lot of things around, you know, transforming the mind, you know, transforming the will, transforming our soul, and those type of things, like going through a cleansing to find out, what have you been through? How did you go through it? Are you really healed from it? And if you aren't, let's talk about it. Because when you talk about it, you know, we need community as people. Nobody can live by themselves. And when you feel safe and you're in a safe space, you share, you feel lighter. I'm telling you, anyone going through a problem now, right? No matter how much anxiety or worry they're going through, if you give them 10 minutes of your time to talk, that problem they have will start to come down automatically. So talking is the beginning to healing. That's what I think.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, when we were going through our run through, you had mentioned a project that you were going to be working on. So, you know, like the workshops for people to, or was it workshops for people to just come and speak about their trauma? If you'd like to speak, tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so one of the things, what I tend to do is I have different programs and I host different events, right? And as I said, I am a Christian, but what I do, I offer to anybody. So anyone can come. They don't have to be a Christian. As long as they're happy to hear whatever it is that's being shared and come with an open mind, that's fine. So I'm starting a new program from June called Beyond Your Tears, whereby I'm trying to create a space for people to be able to come together to just share their emotions with one another. You know, like, what are you feeling? How are you feeling? And just talk about it. Like, there's no judgment. There's no shame. You know, we have access to Zoom and all these wonderful online platforms now. So you can literally come on, change your name. You don't have to be your real name if you don't want to. You don't have to have your camera on. You just come on, just talk about how you're feeling. And then you can be in the room to listen to other people who have also maybe gone through or are going through what you're going through, and feel encouraged. You know, as I said, when you talk about what you're going through, it's almost as if you're taking that burden that you're carrying on your shoulders, and you're like, you know what, I'm taking that off, I'm putting it down. And when you put it down, you feel lighter. If you wanted to cry, like, I spoke to someone literally within the last 24 hours, and I just sent them a message just to check up on them. And within 2 minutes of me sending that message, I called them. They were in a place of emotions. They were crying. They were going through something. I checked on that person and called them. Who knows how they would have been in that place by themselves, just crying. You understand? But when I called, I listened. I take the time and I listen to you. I give you a bit of advice. You know, if we need to pray together, then I will pray with you. And then we'll spend time together to just be strengthened, to encourage you, to know you're not alone. And you can get through it. We all can get through it. I promise you, there's not a single person you meet on this earth that has not gone through some sort of trauma, some sort of grief, or some sort of loss. But if we share it together, the shame will go, the denial will go, and the depression will go, just by coming to talk to one another. And so I'm hoping to do that with my workshops and see what happens. You know, they're free. I'm not charging anybody any money. You know, we'll just see what happens, you know, because I can chat till tomorrow. So
I love talking.
Sorry,
but you know,
again?
No, we're just saying that I think that's really, you know, it's really amazing, and that's a really useful space to have, especially now, like with the past few years, the way that life has been. And as you said, you know, it's not like grief is not necessarily the loss of a loved one, of a life that you once knew, a loss of a relationship, loss of a job. There's so many things, and the way that, you know, we're not programmed to be isolated, and we've had to live like that for so long. And so having places like that where you can feel that you're, you know, it's safe and you can just open up, it's, you know, it's really,
or listen if you want to listen.
It's just
because you know, it's funny you should say that, you know, Tara, because I feel like one of the things that I was really concerned about when I was looking at the way we were living during the lockdown, you know, was people in some way could understand losing a loved one because of the nature of what we were facing. It was a pandemic, it's a virus, it was something we didn't know. So medically, death kind of made sense. It wasn't nice. We didn't expect it to happen, but it could make sense. But knowing that you've gone home one day and you've lost your job, or you've gone home one day and now you can't go out and get the train, and you can't plan your wedding, and you can't go on holiday. Like, the mind was not given time to process that.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I was in the pandemic, I was mostly concerned about people coming out and being able to adjust. And this is what I love about human beings. We're more resilient than we realize.
Yeah.
If we would have a space to just be able to express what we're feeling, once we express it, we make sense of it, and then we can cope with it. So it's like, oh, okay, I've told someone now. Oh, now that I've said that, it's not that bad. I'm actually okay. This makes sense. You know, it becomes a little bit more logical. It becomes a little bit more understood. And so I want to create a space where people can just be like, you know what? The pandemic took my life. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. You know, or the way the government handled things. I don't like what they did. I'm angry about that. You know, I feel traumatic about that. I wake up with night sweats about that. And they can just talk about it, and we can share ideas. We can share tools, resources that will help us just find a way to come out of it and feel whole and healthy again.
Yeah, that's definitely, like, all of what you just said there, you know, like, it was a universal experience, and it's something that none of us have really experienced in our lifetime. So, you know, any resources that are out there that can help us to get through that is definitely invaluable, because it's something that we've never known and just weren't prepared for, as you said. So even though now things are starting to get a bit more normal and things are opening up, that long-term effect that it's had, that's not going to go away right away. So, you know, it takes time. So yeah,
it won't, because you know what, as we're coming back out, when you're seeing, like, when I go out now and I meet family and friends, and I'm looking like, I saw this child when this child was like 7 years old. Now the child's grown up and it's like, oh, they're now almost 11 years. I'm like, how did that? How did that happen? Like, where did you? And they're like, oh, auntie, you have to remember, like, we were in lockdown. I'm like, oh my God, 2 years. And they're like, I'm like, you can't count that. Like, we lost it. So it's really, really hard, you know. But I feel like conversations are always a great tool to start the journey for healing.
Yeah, and that was that kind of answered a question that we were going to ask, like, you know, what advice you could give to people. But as you said, talking, you know, that is a major source and start of opening up to getting on the path to healing.
Yeah, and use the resources that are available. So like here in the UK, you've got the NHS. You can go to your GP. They can refer you for counseling if you need that. You know, for me, when I was going through the grief of losing my husband, I accessed counseling services, and it was very useful, and it helped me with part of my journey. You know, I went to the mind.org.uk. They've got a website. They were really, really good. Really, really supportive for me personally. You know, my GP was useful as well. And I think it's Cruse, CRUSE.
Yes.
They're another organization that's quite good. So go out there, you find the resources, use them. You know, don't ever feel that you have to go through it alone. You know, if you don't have the right support system, your journey to healing and recovery is just longer and harder. And I promise you, if you ask for help, there are many people more than happy to help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. We all need it.
Definitely.
It's true. That's true. I mean, for me, I went through, or we went through talking therapies. And to begin with, to be honest, at first, you do have to be ready to talk as well, because to begin with, I wasn't ready. But when I did finally, spoke to a few people, and when I finally got through to one therapist, I thought he did help a lot. That did help a lot. And then I went to one which was a bereavement, but that was just before the lockdown, so it kind of stopped. But just hearing everyone else's situations and what's happened to them, it just makes you like more aware of just everything, and that, you know, your situation is one thing, but everyone else goes through something, and it's all different. And it was really like helpful, and I really did not enjoy, but it was something that I was sort of getting to see different ways of how people deal with that sort of thing. So yeah, sorry to go off that, but just where you said it remind me of what we did.
Okay, so ladies, I know we don't have much time.
Yes,
where can people find you guys, right? Like where can they find you? On Instagram, Facebook? Where is it happening?
Oh yeah, so what we've done now, we've just got a link tree. So it's Linktree Grief Probate Journey, and when you go to that, all of our resources are there. So Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube channel. We just thought that it's easier than having things all over the place. So it's Linktree Grief Probate Journey. And how about you as well?
Yes.
It's the same thing. Linktree Reshape with the Holy Spirit. All one word. Reshape with Holy Spirit. And that's it, all one word. And you'll find me on Instagram. I've got a website. I'm on Facebook a little bit, you know. I'm too busy sometimes, so I'm not very much on social media. So I'm trying to utilize social media a little bit more. So yeah, things will be coming out a bit more, you know. So get in touch with any one of us. We would love to help anyone. Even if we can't help you, you can always find out where you can get the help you need. You know, please don't. We shouldn't. We're not meant to struggle alone, are we, ladies?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. Okay, so I think now it's time to maybe wrap it up. I'm not sure, but we just wanted to say thank you to Tony, to Nathan, to Josh, to Dee, all of the people that have put this together and given us this amazing opportunity to be a part of this. And also thank you to you, Michelle. We apologize for that.
All the
technical. We're just happy that we somehow managed to resolve it and, you know, get through with our slot and our talk. And, you know, we've really enjoyed this. It's been really enlightening and really nice speaking to you, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming to be a part of it.
No problem at all. It's lovely to be with you, Tanya and Tara. You guys are doing amazing works, and I just feel like it's only going to get bigger and go out more as you continue to do what you're doing. And this grief conference is absolutely amazing. And I love everybody that's on, you know. I wish I could be at all of them just so I can learn, but there's a lot to learn, you know. So it's absolutely amazing. And I just hope that everyone can see what's being done and, you know, be able to benefit from it, you know. Yeah.
That's all we can
hope for. Yeah,
you know, we can just keep doing what we're doing, you know. Information, education is the best way to change anything. The more we talk, the more things will happen.
Exactly. Definitely. And we're happy to, you know, be a part of this. And it's like, you know, expanding the network worldwide, you know, so it's sharing resources, not just from the UK, but all over. And that's what's really just a nice thing, that we can come together in something that has been not such a great situation. And this is the way that we're trying to turn it around.
Yes, absolutely. And you're empowering people. You've empowered me. You've empowered me, you know. You've empowered me now. I'm going to go sit with my kids. Like, all right, come on. We're going to talk about it. Let's sit down and make a list. You know, just so that we're ready. Because you just can't take it. You can't put your life in other people's hands. You know, so take the power back. Do what you got to do for the sake of your family and to make things as easy as possible. You know, get that end of life plan. End of life plan. If you take anything from today, get your end of life plan. Okay. Thank you for asking this question, Josh. I'm glad you're able to join.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we're okay. I think that's it now. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Michelle.
No problem at all. Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care. Bye, everyone. Thank you.